Peace is a path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. On the news this afternoon, President Tinubu promises to invest in transportation, education, power to improve quality of lives. Port Harcourt residents react to President Tinubu's Democracy Day broadcast. Governor Fubara calls for protection of national ideals on the occasion of Democracy Day. Police withdraws from filling station belonging to former lawmaker Chinyere Igwe. And on the foreign scene, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi dies at the age of 86. My name is Jude Omamigbe, and this is the news.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Good afternoon. President Bola Tinubu says his administration will make massive investments in transportation infrastructure, education, regular power supply, healthcare, and other public utilities to improve quality of life. President Tinubu said this in his first Democracy Day broadcast this morning while acknowledging the hardship being faced by Nigerians in the aftermath of the fuel subsidy removal.
I admit that the decision will impose extra burden on the masses. I feel your pain. This is one decision we must bear to save our country from going under. Painfully, I have asked you, my compatriots, to sacrifice a little more for the survival of our country. For your trust and belief in us, I assure you that your sacrifice shall not be in vain.
While hailing the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, MKO Abiola, President Tinubu described the late businessman who died in suspicious circumstances after his election was annulled by the late General Sani Abacha as a symbol of democracy.
There was an easier choice for him. It was to forgo the justice of his cause and opt for the path of ease and capitulation in the face of the tyranny of power. To his eternal credit and immortal glory, Abiola said no. He demonstrated the time-tested eternal truth that there are certain ideals and principles that are far more valuable than life itself.
Speaking on the rule of law, the president said his administration will not condone conflicting and illegal orders that undermine Nigeria's democracy. He also described the bill he signed into law on June the 8th for the harmonization of the retirement age for judicial officers as one of the many policy reforms to come.
It has become imperative to state here that unnecessary illegal orders used to truncate or abridge democracy will no longer be tolerated. The recent harmonization of the retirement age of the judicial officers is meant to strengthen the rule of law, which is a critical pillar of democracy. The reform has just started.
President Tinubu described February and March elections as a true testament of Nigeria's democracy journey.
That the polls were intensely contested is in itself positive evidence that democracy is well and alive in our land. It is only natural that even as those who won and experienced victory in various elections are elated and fulfilled, those who lost are disappointed. But the beauty of democracy is that those who win today can lose tomorrow, and those who lose today will have an opportunity to compete and win in the next rounds of elections.
The federal government has already declared today a public holiday to mark 24 years in the country's transition from military to democratic rule. This is Nigeria's fifth year of marking Democracy Day on June the 12th. Recall that former President Muhammadu Buhari changed the date in 2018 from May 29th to honor the winner of the June 12, 1993 election, the late Moshood Kashimawo Abiola, and his running mate Baba Gana Kingigbe. Meanwhile, some residents of Port Harcourt say President Bola Tinubu's speech is not far from any other promise they have heard in time past. They told our correspondent that it is necessary for the president to establish workable plans to ensure the fulfillment of his promise.
It was hasty to remove the subsidy without putting modalities in place to checkmate it. Just the way his word had value then, whatever he's saying now, I don't think it will alleviate the pains. See, we start seeing things on ground. Anybody can say healthcare, infrastructural development, skills and the rest. What are the steps he's taking to do it? Not I will do it. Give us a roadmap. I'm setting this in place.
If you have anything to do, you should better do it now to gain heart of the masses. Else, nothing for him. Even if he is there, he will be in people's bad book forever because this is not fair.
But not to talk, make them do. I be the thing. The broadcast is okay, but not to implement them.
We all are looking for betterment in this country. If he will be able to do all these things, we'll be happy about it. We don't suffer too much.
River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has urged Nigerians to be vigilant in the defense and protection of national ideals that constitute the fundamental pillars of nationhood and inspire the basis of our constitutional democracy. Governor Fubara said this in a statement to commemorate the 2023 June 12 Democracy Day. The River State Governor also reiterated the commitment of his administration to the security and well-being of Rivers people. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says democracy in Nigeria remains in bondage and it will need the energy of all Nigerians to rescue it. In a statement, the former vice president said the governing elite must stop influencing election outcomes. Also, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, is of the opinion that Nigeria's destiny remains uncertain. In a statement via his official Twitter handle, Mr. Obi said the nation's democracy is deeply troubled and in a precarious state. Meanwhile, Labour Party governorship candidate in Rivers State, Beatrice Itubo, says the country is not where it ought to be 24 years after independence due to the attitude of its citizens. Mrs. Itubo said this in an interview with correspondent Emeka Otuka while speaking at this year's Democracy Day celebration. She said Nigerians believe that some individuals are bigger than the institutions and should determine the outcome of elections. Mrs. Itubo also said that the Electoral Act was meant to strengthen democracy but was truncated by INEC in the 2023 general elections.
The only problem we have is that people are not wanting to learn, and people are still used to the status quo. People want things to continue to stagnate the way they have known it. Otherwise, they would have seen that the new Electoral Act would have been a plus for democracy. But what did INEC do? INEC went ahead to truncate the whole process by bastardizing the whole electionary process. And today you can see other litigations here and there. So I'm thinking that our democracy still has the chances of growing if only we can learn lessons and begin to see how we can allow society to grow. We don't want to make society look as if a particular group of people own the society and so they can dictate.
On his part, the head of Freedom of Expression and Pluralism at the Institute of Media and Society, Sunny Dada, said even though Nigeria has had successful transitions, Nigeria has made little progress in governance.
We still have challenges with our social charter in terms of what leaders are supposed to do for the people and what citizens are also supposed to do for the country. So the blame game is still on. And that is why we also see the lack of loyalty to the national question. People are more inclined to showing loyalty to their ethnic nationalities instead of showing loyalty to the country. So by and large, you can go on, but the fact that still a democracy, we have every reason to celebrate.
Mr. Dada also called on the new administration to further strengthen the Electoral Act 2022 and other institutions that promote democracy. For women who are about half of Nigeria's population, gender advocate NLB says they are yet to fully maximize the benefits of a democratic system of government. Ms. Obi, who is the country director of Action Aid Nigeria, says although Nigerian women have benefited from the democratic government, they have not been given enough chances to hold elective positions. She tells correspondent Constance Mega that no country can make meaningful progress without involving women in governance.
We cannot decide for the men because we are not men and we cannot be men. Men can also not decide for women, but that's what has been happening. They've been deciding. We need more people on board that can talk about why we have child mortality, excess of maternal mortality in the land, and we are not at war. Nigeria is among the last 5 in the world in terms of maternal mortality. It is not okay. Issues of health, education, insecurity, violence against women is on the rise. Women are really involved in the economy. I know we can do more, and we should be able to do more.
The activists also criticized the government for not actualizing the 35% affirmative action that Nigeria agreed to.
The national policy states 40% women representation. The Nigerian government also signed the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and we have the Belgian affirmative action, which states that in every sphere we should have 35% of representation as women. Many of the political leadership have paid lip services to women representation in Nigeria, and in elective position we are also not getting to where we should be, and the 2023 general election has put it down further.
A 2018 report from Data Files shows that as of 2015, there was less than 6% representation of women in the available 1,533 political seats. The report said that at the start of democracy in 1999, there was 2.5% women representation in 2003, 3.7% in 2007, 5.4% in 2011, 6%, and in 2015, 4.7% women's representation. Another report from the UN Office in Nigeria shows that there was an increase to 10.1% in 2019 and 2023. But fewer women vied for elective positions in the 2023 elections compared to 2019. In 2023, 1,553 females were candidates out of the 15,307 available positions, whereas in 2019, 2,968 females vied for elective positions. Away from that now, security experts have identified poor implementation of laws and a slow justice system, among others, as reasons for the heightened insecurity in the country. A former Assistant Inspector General of Police, Felix Ogbadu Udu, tells correspondent Emeka Otuka that more offences should be capitalized to deter perpetrators.
One of our biggest challenges in this country as a nation is the absence of deterrence. You see, in countries like Saudi Arabia, I think Malaysia too, drug trafficking is a capital offense. So we really need to capitalize on these offenses. Then speedy trials. Our trials take too long in courts. So anybody that's arrested, if you face the wrath of the law, get convicted and sentenced to prison. But we need to heighten up the punishment for some of these criminal activities. If that will serve as a deterrent to some people, I will deter them from ever getting involved.
AIG Ogbaudu, who's also a former commissioner of police in Rivers State, warned against politicizing crime or justifying crime.
Our population as a nation has exploded. The level of joblessness, hunger, that's not a reason for people to resort to crimes. Even the disabled still work to earn a living, not talk of those that have their limbs intact, so they're not at school. So we need to sensitize members of the public, warn our children to disease or such things. If anybody is arrested, there's no sentiments of, oh, is the king's son. The doctrine of equality before the law must apply.
Another security expert, Efe Owanogo, corroborated this.
We find that the urban area is largely more police than the rural area. You will find in some local governments you have just a police division and you have no more than 10 people in the entire RG as police officers. It's grossly not acceptable. So I think that the CP may want to review what he has. And if he has need to deploy more people to those areas, because in a remote area and you have just a division, you have very few arms and ammunition, and you have very few manpower. Criminals in that area know that you have just one rickety patrol vehicle. They know that given the next 3 hours, you will not be there. They know that your manpower is limited. So they are able now to perpetrate crimes and get away with it.
Moving on now, the police vans stationed at the sealed filling station of former lawmaker Chinyere Igwe have left the premises 10 months after it was sealed. The former lawmaker representing Port Harcourt Federal Constituency 2 was an ally of the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, who had a political running battle with the immediate past governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. Our correspondent who visited the filling station located at Adelabu Ojoto Street, Mile 2, Jobo axis of Port Harcourt, reports that the filling station has been unsealed and is operating. Recall that the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, had on the 20th of August 2022 ordered the shutdown of the filling station and the arrest of the owner on the allegation that he was involved in illegal oil refining activities, an allegation the former lawmaker has since denied. Well, still ahead, a Ministry of Agriculture warns against consumption hides, also known as momo, smoked meat and bush meat. Stay tuned.
Stay on track with Nigeria.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back to the Major News Bulletin. My name is Jude Omamigbe. We continue our stories now as human rights lawyer Femi Falana says the DSS lacked constitutional power to investigate and prosecute the suspended governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele. Falana, in a message to journalists, said Emefiele should be transferred to the custody of the EFCC. The senior advocate of Nigeria said the EFCC has the legal right to prosecute Emefiele. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has strongly advised Nigerians to desist from consumption of hides, also known as momo, smoked meat and bush meat. In a statement today, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Ernest Umakie, said the warning became necessary following the outbreak of anthrax in some neighboring countries within the West African sub-region. The minister said the disease, which poses a serious risk, has claimed some lives. Anthrax is a zoonotic disease that is naturally found in the soil and commonly affects domestic and wild animals.
And now the business news.
To business now, the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Aviation, Nolim Naji, has described the accusation that he demanded a 5% stake in the proposed national carrier, Nigeria Air, as lies. Recall that the former Minister of Aviation, Adi Sirika, made the allegation during an interview on Arise Television. But reacting to this, Mr. Naji said the former minister is a drowning man who would hold on to anything to survive. In entertainment, Ekiti State First Lady Olayemi Oyebanji has taken to social media to celebrate Chef Dami's attempt to break the Guinness World Record in the longest cooking category with a 120-hour target. In a statement on her social media handle, Mrs. Oyebanji celebrates the will of the chef to attempt the record. The young chef, as of this morning, has been cooking for over 80 hours non-stop. In sports, Floyd Mayweather's exhibition fight with John Gotti III ended in a mass brawl when people stormed the ring following a controversial decision. Referee Kenny Bayless stopped the fight in the 6th round to the annoyance of Gotti, who then lashed out at 46-year-old Mayweather. The ring was then swarmed with team members from both sides as Bayless struggled to contain the drama. And finally, from the international scene, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has died at the age of 86. He was the prime minister 4 times. Each time it seemed his political career was over, he managed to bounce back. 9 years after he was banned from public office for tax fraud, he was elected to Italy's Senate before he turned 86 in September of 2022. And that was in major news this afternoon. But before we depart, a quick recap. On the news this afternoon, you heard President Tinubu has promised to invest in transportation, education, power to improve quality of lives of Nigerians. Port Harcourt residents have reacted to President Tinubu's Democracy Day broadcast. Governor Fubara has called for protection of national ideas on the occasion of Democracy Day. Police have withdrawn its personnel from a filling station belonging to former lawmaker Chinyere Igwe. And on the foreign scene, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has died at the age of 86. The news was edited by Onyekachi Wosu. Cloudy weather in Port Harcourt is expected this afternoon with temperatures of between 26 to 28 degrees centigrade. Please be advised. Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. My name is Jude Omamigbe. Thank you for listening and good afternoon.